Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day to you all, depending on where you're joining or viewing us from. My name is Josephine Obonna. I am a legal practitioner called to the Nigerian Bar. I practice in Lagos State, Nigeria. I'm glad to have you back. So, my second video, I will explain who a company secretary is and what their duties are, or what the duties of a company secretary is. And one of the duties I highlighted was the company secretary's responsibility with regards to setting up the meetings of companies, being responsible for ensuring that the meetings of companies are held. So today, I want to pick out that responsibility. I want to throw more light on it, and I'll just say at this point that meetings of companies are like one of the biggest responsibilities of a company. If of a company secretary, if a company secretary spends like 200 days at work, best believe that 150 days out of those 200 days revolves around the meetings of companies, various meetings in all its ramifications and everything that goes into it. And trust me, a lot goes into it. The successful holding of the meetings of companies go would go a long way to make or mar the career of a legal practitioner, of a company secretary now, excuse me. So that's why at this point, I think it's important to highlight what these meetings are. It is a long, it is a lot. So this is going to be a kind of series to break it down briefly, step by step, what is involved. It is a whole lot, from the notices to quorum to the types of meetings to the logistics that go into ensuring that successful meetings are held. So I'll just take it bit by bit. And today I'll just be talking about the types of meetings that companies hold. So generally, companies in their different, depending on their different responsibilities and the different cadre of personnel or persons involved in it, companies hold various meetings. There is a management meeting. Yes, most of the time the articles and the materials you would see would not speak to management meetings. They would speak to the next two meetings I'm going to talk about. But just know that there is the management meeting, and most of the times the company secretary is also responsible in ensuring that those meetings are held successfully. Most times the managing director or the management of the company would appoint the company secretary as also the secretary for these meetings. And once it's your responsibility, it's in your KPI, it's in your job description, you have to deliver on it, whether or not it is traditionally acknowledged by the laws or by our codes as the meetings of the company. So far as it's part of your job description, you have to deliver on it. So I've said there is the management meetings and there is the general meetings. The general meetings are the meetings of the shareholders of a company. And then there is the board meeting. The board meetings are the meetings of the board of directors of a company. Now, I won't dwell so much on the management meetings because it's not provided for or under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. So management meetings, it is what it is. Just ensure that the meeting of members of management, of management team of the company, holds effectively and successfully. That is it. Now let's come to the meetings that are provided for by our laws. The first meeting provided for by our laws is the general meetings, the meetings of shareholders. Now, general meetings are divided into three. There are the statutory meetings, there are the annual general meetings, and there are the extraordinary general meetings. Now, the statutory meetings is mandated or the board of directors of a company is mandated by the Companies and Allied Matters Act to hold to hold the meeting of the members of a company 6 months after incorporation of the company. So once a company is incorporated, a public company, let me say at this point, it could be a nice to have for a private company, but for a public company, you must hold a statutory meeting 6 months after incorporation. And at this statutory meeting, the statutory records or the statutory reports of the company is submitted to the shareholders to consider, to look at. At this meeting, quite a number of important deliberations are reached. It basically sets the tone for how the company will operate going forward. It's also at this meeting that certain pre-incorporation contracts or transactions that were entered into before the incorporation of the company would be sanctioned by shareholders. There would be a separate video where this meeting on its own would also be discussed, and all the things that go into it, and the proceedings that are expected to be held, the agenda to be discussed in these meetings, and even the contents of this statutory report I've referred to. I would throw more light on them in a separate video, because that on its own is also a lot. Then, coming to the annual general meetings. The annual general meetings, just as the name goes, it's the meetings of the shareholders of a company that is supposed to hold annually every year. The first annual general meeting is supposed to hold not less than 18 months after the incorporation of the company. So for a public company that has been incorporated, that has held its statutory meetings 6 months, within 6 months post incorporation, you know that maybe by the next 12 months again, you're supposed to hold your the first annual general meeting, and then after that, subsequent annual general meetings can be held. The question of annual general meetings and the notices, the things to be discussed are another kettle of fish on its own that would also take our time to dissect in a separate video. Then there is the extraordinary general meetings. The extraordinary general meetings are also the meetings of the members or the shareholders of a company. And these meetings, unlike the annual general meetings, are meetings that are convened to address very urgent issues. So the annual general meetings, there are the normal ordinary businesses or special businesses that can be trashed out in the annual general meetings, but the extraordinary general meetings are meetings convened for matters that are very, very urgent. They can't wait for the annual general meetings to happen. So the members will have to, the extraordinary general meeting would have to be convened by the board of directors to call the attention of the shareholders to these issues. These meetings can also be called by the members themselves. Members that hold at least up to 10% of the shares of the company can call these meetings. It mustn't, this time around, it mustn't be just the company secretary or the board. It mustn't just be called by the board. It can also be called by the members also. And then the third meeting, that's okay. I've talked about the statutory meetings of the company, the annual general meetings, and the extraordinary general meetings. So these are the 3 categories of meetings of the shareholders of a company on one side. Then you have the meetings of the board of directors of a company. The meetings of the board of directors of a company is basically the meeting, just as the name goes. All the directors of the company are expected to be in attendance at these meetings. The appropriate notices are supposed to be issued with the requisite agenda items to be discussed at the meetings. The board meetings also, by the provisions of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2020, it's advised that public companies hold board meetings at least once a quarter, at least once a quarter. In as much as I said, public companies, but also it's always advised, best corporate governance practices requires that even private companies that are serious with what they are doing, that some of these things, they also imbibe them. So the board meetings, at least once a quarter. So these are the various types of, and then after within the board meetings, the boards also have their different board committees. So in the these board committees also have their own meetings. They would meet to discuss whatever responsibilities that have been given to them to execute. They would have to call management to report to them. They look at management report because there might not be enough time for management to report directly to the board at the full board meeting. So the board committees meetings are the fora for management to give all the explanation, get queried for whatever issues that the directors might have at these committees meetings. Then from these committees meetings, the reports from these committees meetings would then be presented to the full board meeting. So most times where the full board meetings would hold quarterly, the committees meetings would also hold quarterly, or even more. It can hold more than 4 times, 5 times, depending on the exigency, depending on the necessity to hold these meetings, so that basically all the governance issues, all the strategic issues, all the financial issues that pertain to the company can be effectively discussed. So generally, what I've just tried to do is to throw light on the types of meetings that a company has. In subsequent videos, we will take these meetings. In fact, for some of the meetings, we wouldn't even take like annual general meeting. One video would not cover everything about an annual general meeting. So different segments, different aspects of these meetings as we go on, would throw more light on them, would discuss them, would dissect them extensively, so that if you're in a company, if you're the CEO of a company, if you're floating a company, if you're managing director, if you're a member of any board, you would know what is expected or what is required with regards to these meetings. So just a quick rundown. I said that I referred to 3 types of meetings, albeit that our laws recognizes basically 2 meetings. So I said the management meetings is an internal meeting of the management of the company. That's aside. And then I also referred to the general meetings, which is the meetings of the shareholders of the company. And I also referred to the board meetings of the company. Under the shareholders meetings, I said that there are the statutory meetings, the annual general meetings, and the extraordinary general meetings. For the board meetings, I said that within the board, there could also be the committees. So in addition to the full board meeting, there are also the board committees meetings of companies. So I just hope that so far what we've shared is relevant to you. And I hope that I'm looking forward to discussing other segments or other aspects of these meetings. And I hope that you're as enthusiastic or as expectant as I am. And at this point, I would just encourage you to comment, please like, share, and please subscribe, turn on the notifications so that when we put up new videos, you'd be the first to know. And thank you very much for sticking with us so far, and I would see you in my next videos. Thank you and have a lovely day.